Space. While it's often joked as the place that horror franchises go to die, yet one series took it in stride. No, I'm not talking about Critters 4, or Leprechaun 4, or Hellraiser 4. And sure, some people view this as the black sheep of the series, but I'd reserve that space for a certain buttworm Jason. So bust out your nipple clamps, cause we're seeing just how awfully good is Jason X. A sign of a great movie is one that has to sit on the shelf for years, waiting to be released, right? Well, despite the fact that this was written off as a joke for so many years, Jason X has found a pretty passionate fan base, and I count myself amongst them. I find this movie to be infinitely rewatchable and so entertaining during its entire runtime. Because while I love the franchise, they're often pretty interchangeable, and many of my friends have trouble differentiating between them. But everyone knows the space one. Its identity is so clearly defined. The basic premise of the movie is absurdly simple. Jason goes to space. I could pretty much leave it at that, but just know that there's also a group of students on this massive spaceship, and a full-blown SWAT team. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it doesn't have to. It's all about upping that sweet, sweet body count. The credit sequences in these films usually aren't much to write home about, often being just white text on a black screen. Yet here we have a journey through hell as we get to see a close-up of Jason's insides. It's full of some genuinely fantastic visuals, and almost sets up the movie to be much grander in scale than it ends up being. Because once we leave the credits and get firmly into space, holy hell. If you've never seen Canadian sci-fi television, then let me introduce you to the Stargate SG-1s and Andromedas of the world. Because there are times where I'm not sure if I'm watching a Friday the 13th sequel or something that belongs on the Sci-Fi Channel. It doesn't help that two of the main leads from the film, Lexa Doig and Lisa Ryder, also starred on Andromeda. Ryder is even this insane cyborg that fights Jason one-on-one. This movie just reeks of absurd sci-fi shit. I feel like when it comes to Jason X, there are three important aspects to talk about: the head freeze, Uber Jason, and the virtual reality.
You want a beer?
Or do you want to smoke some pot?
Or we can have premarital sex.
The virtual reality featured in this movie is every gamer's wet dream. This thing is fully immersive and even capable of tricking its users. Though I'm not sure why some people need rigs, while Jason can just walk right in and see everything. But we'll ignore that. And we'll also ignore the fact that Jason kills these two dudes in much more satisfying ways in the VR setup than in actual reality. I mean, heck, he just breaks this dude's back and slams Dallas's head up against the wall. But the real showcase for the VR is the scene that mimics Camp Crystal Lake. It gives you that little taste of Friday the 13th that we all know and love. And we even get a nice little homage to the sleeping bag kill from part 7. Even if you'd never seen the movie before, there's a good chance you'd seen this kill. Because the sheer idea of Jason freezing someone's head in liquid nitrogen is already great, but then the little extra something that Kane gives the body makes it even more hilarious. What's even better about this is that they shoot back and forth between Jason's revival and this scene, which further proves that Jason is fueled by teen debauchery. And while Jason was known for his violent tendencies, the series was often neutered by the ratings board. So to see something so in your face was a nice change of pace. And this was due to the changing landscape of cinema. The film actually had the least amount of issues with the MPAA. Somewhat surprising given how gory the film can get at times. But hey, I'm not complaining. If anything, the gorier the better.
I'd say it got better. It's been modified.
Oh, you think?
Uber Jason is one of the more insane things that the series has ever done, and that's saying quite a lot. Did I mention the buttworm? Yet even still, I never had nanobots turning Jason into some souped up super shredder on my Friday the 13th bingo card. And while he looks absolutely ridiculous, complete with what looks like full-blown shoulder pads, there's nothing about this design that works. Okay, those eyes are pretty cool, but it's how bad it is that just makes it all the more endearing. I mean, look at the size of his arm. And that mask looks like it's made of cheap plastic. He could practically be a Power Rangers villain. But the fine details of the costume are great to look out for and accomplishes its job of creating an even more powerful Jason, even if it looks silly as shit.
What do we do when you find this guy?
Well, I promised the doc we'd take him alive. So, after you blow him all to hell, put one on his leg so we can say we tried.
Alright, I know I said 3, but f it. The fourth aspect about this movie that makes it stand out is Sergeant Brodsky. Played by Peter Mensah, this guy is an absolute badass. I mean, just watch as Jason supposedly kills him.
It's gonna take more than a poke in the ribs to put down this old dog.
Yeah, that ought to do it.
But that's not enough to keep old Brodsky down, and he shows up to stab Jason in the arm here. And he even gets patched up by the old nanobots that helped out Jason. And this guy doesn't rest on his laurels at any point, taking Jason head on while the damn ship is blowing up. And when that doesn't work, he takes Jason down to Earth, sacrificing himself as they burn up, re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. And now that we know that Jason safely made it back to Earth, it's time to move on to some awfully good drinking games. The No Doig. Take a drink every time Lexa Doig's character is confused about something.
What are you doing here?
Did you get him? Where is he? Tell me about him.
This girl just won't believe anything.
2455. That's over 400 years.
Technologically illiterate. Take a drink anytime a new piece of tech is introduced that can just solve whatever problem is happening. Lose an arm? Don't worry about it. Get stabbed through the chest and stomach? 'Tis but a flesh wound in the year 2455. Canadian recognition. Take a swig from your drink anytime you recognize someone from a Canadian television show. Be careful with this one, it can get out of control fast. Now that we've got enough booze in your system, let's go over some trivia. Screenwriter Todd Farmer appears in the role of Dallas, poking fun at the character from the first Alien. Early on, James Isaac pitched a winter-set Crystal Lake tale, but New Line rejected it, wanting to avoid having the slasher back in the woods. Despite its digital look, the movie was actually shot on 35mm film. Jason never blinks anytime his eyes are shown. Famed director David Cronenberg appears in the beginning of the film. Louis Abernathy, you know, the bearded guy from Titanic, actually did a pass on the script, adding humor to the dialogue. Had the largest budget of the franchise so far with $14 million. The highest body count of the series with 25 kills. Kane Hodder's final appearance in the series as Jason. Until the video game, that is. Mythbusters determined that it is possible for someone's head to shatter after being dipped into liquid nitrogen. There's a lot to love about Jason X, even with all of its terrible qualities. So on a scale from Victor Salva to Roger Corman, this one gets a strong 9 out of 10. Because no matter how much space is considered a death nail, if anything, this series proves that it's just another avenue for fun violence. What else would you like to see us cover on Awfully Good? Let us know in the comments and we'll leave you with these words of wisdom.
I don't think he's out there.
Why don't you just stick your head out and have a peek?